keep running. So what I was saying is in the other video is that sometimes like where I was going is that you'll see every once in a while. I don't think it's cool to consume anything on camera. Even if I had a food channel, I wouldn't be eating the food on channel because it doesn't look cool eating on channel or even ingesting something. But sometimes you'll see people that are like they're like taking a pull something like so. But what I was saying is that the lungs had not been part of the digestive system. If you appreciate the overall the trends and the motions and the habit of the human body, is that not that the lungs can't ingest something, but the lungs aren't in the habit of doing that. So when you just take a pull like that, it can knock you down because that's actually your breathing apparatus and how you're existing for a moment. Because if you don't breathe, you don't exist. But I think that the digestive system, the stomach, is actually the means of what the body is accustomed to taking in something and assimilating it and breaking it down and then having it proliferate to the bloodstream rather than go straight through the lungs. And even some things that we ingest orally that hit the bloodstream before going to the digestive tract, part of it that would be true enough, but then the larger part would hit the digestive tract. But what I meant to say is that but what is actually a person conveying when they imbibe, like when they take a pull like that and they're somewhat proud of ingesting like something like cannabis? Where I remember as a young person, you would like some people would be more or less comfortable around something like cannabis, and like there would actually be something like compelling about like, so what is it about cannabis that can have some people like scared like terrified for some people would be terrified or some people would be having like maybe medical attention that's not favorable because of an experience with something like marijuana, and then other people would be like cool and serene and interesting and fun and really like in a strong a strong mental position for having consumed cannabis. Some people would be like, man, you're bogus for saying there's anything strong about consuming cannabis. But so it is interesting that some people can have a different experience of it, and that some people who look into cannabis say that cannabis affects people differently at different points in life, and I think that that's true enough. Especially if you appreciate that your mind has more more opportunity to develop at latter points, but also you have different experience of confidence and also experience that informs confidence differently at different points. Some young people can have wisdom and or confidence very early, like even before actually becoming adults. There was one person I went to school with who we were like in seniors in high school, and I think he had like a little bit of a rough background. Like I think he might have been like in foster homes, but we would sit around like these tables, like we were always sitting around in school. I think every high school student should just walk around with a guitar or with an instrument because you have enough time on your hands to get good at an instrument in school, sitting around for stuff. But they have us like seniors like sitting around a table, like in I think it's like English class, and there'd be like some beautiful girls there, and then like a couple of us guys. And one guy he was very comfortable just like sitting there with doing nothing in front of some girls. Like he would like do stuff with his hands and like he would be like communicating. He's actually communicating, but there's like a lot of confidence, and he was very confident and content to just sit there and vegetate in front of some beautiful girls. But he was cool. I'm being more. I was taking some shots right there, but he was a cool guy and he was comfortable with himself at a young age. That's a unique degree of confidence for a young person. I think I would be similarly comfortable around almost a lot of different people, men, women, attractive, cool, dangerous, civil, different people. If I'm in my element and I'm really being myself, because I've had more experience being myself and putting myself in situations to be myself around different people now that I wouldn't have had then. But so I could maybe feel comfortable around like some beautiful women or just beautiful people, my peers, people younger than me, peers older than me. I feel as comfortable just sitting somewhere if I had to around some people. But that hadn't yet been my development at that point. But that person was like that. And I've also met young people that have a lot of wisdom. I had some friends that had a lot of wisdom and real life seasoning at young ages. They also had experiences that would have been maybe a little bit more challenging and mature, that would be due their station at a young age like that person did. But it was still compelling back then that how could some people actually sustain something like marijuana and be comfortable and confident and enjoy the experience, or be compelling and interesting from the experience, and that wasn't the experience for other people. Is that I think some of it is that the confidence to be a free thinker. So part of what would allow you, so as you're experiencing something like a substance, like say cannabis, you're experiencing yourself differently than you would otherwise experience yourself, or that you maybe otherwise would experience yourself. And part of that comes with reflections, insights, and perceptions of yourself and others, and also others for perceiving yourself, and yourself for perceiving others perceiving you. That might be daunting, challenging, but it would be new and different, especially if you'd be new to something like that. But what could help you ride that out and enjoy it, or at least develop from it and land from it, would be that you have the confidence to think for yourself. So you're experiencing things that you have not read in any book, that nobody has been, maybe other people haven't actually experienced what you're experiencing under entheogen. In life, we're probably experiencing things that other people haven't experienced, but it's more vivid under entheogen. And so from that standpoint, you don't actually have a reference or a training or a preparation to experience yourself that way, and other people that for other people for experiencing yourself, experiencing other people that way. You wouldn't have a reference for that or a background with that. So it would be unfamiliar and strange, for lack of a better word, but also interesting and challenging and enlightening if we could come through it. But part of what allowed us to sustain that is that we have the confidence to give ourselves the license to form original thoughts about our experience, reflect on, frame, interpret, and add meaning and value to what we're experiencing, even something as subjective as ourselves. As subjective is what a person would experience under an entheogen. What could allow a person to say that is like, damn, that chair looks, my grandma had used that chair, but what if that chair is actually a grandma, and my grandma is a plant that grew on top of it? Just the circumstances of how that plant, that whatever they used to create that chair, like the tree and whatnot, however it is. Well, actually, if I was under the substance, I would say whatnot, because that sounds a little arrogant. But what would have had to make that chair might have indirectly sprouted my grandma on top of it. So that's a grandma chair I'm looking at. That's actually a grandma right there, that chair. Just to have a thought like that, a scientist would say, what did you say? Did you have research for that? Did you cite your sources for that? Did you really just say that? Are you not this and that? Is this label not applied to you? Because other people have said stuff like that, and this is what was applied to them. So you must therefore be like them. And when you go for this and that, you have to be subject to this perception that I had of you, that said you said something that didn't sound like that's something I had heard before about science. But has that person ever actually experienced my grandma, or that chair and my grandma, or me missing my grandma and losing my grandma, but having that chair as a part of her, and appreciating that chair as grandma, and as potentially able to sprout a grandma on it then again now. That had been a grandma chair at that time. That's a grandma chair. I just discovered a grandma chair, and I want to put that onto the public canon of knowledge, is that I discovered a grandma chair, and that grandma chairs can sprout grandmas. Because I've seen a grandma sit on there before, and that chair still reminds me of grandma, so that's a grandma chair. That's as viable as any stupid theory in any stupid book that's leveled against another person, or any trick that a person can do with any stupid book that's called science. I just want to say that that's actually being a free thinker, and that's the license that is our life. So what license have you in this life? You have the license that you give yourself, that you can sustain, that you give yourself, that you can sustain. Is the license that you have in this life. And whatever licenses you win, it's because you actually gave yourself the license to have the confidence to go out for that license. That's how you got a license somehow. So we have the license to think, and it's our prerogative, according to Arthur Avalon, to think. So I want to enter the next video with some pet theories that are in that spirit, that are no less viable nor more viable than that, but to me is as viable as any stupid theory that any stupid book would, any stupid school, any stupid person calling himself any stupid title would use against a person, is as viable and more interesting to me. So I just want to offer some stuff in that vein, but say that that's actually how you may sustain something challenging. But if you're getting the habit of something like taking pulls all the time, it's not as much challenging anymore. But if you can come through something like taking a pull and then actually having an original thought, that might be what people are flexing when they're taking pulls.